The Jaran civilization was dying. Once proud and powerful, their cities had stretched across the entire planet, and their technology rivaled the stars themselves. But now, a slow but unstoppable disaster crept across their world. The atmosphere was thinning, crops were failing, and the oceans were shifting in strange, dangerous ways. Panic and despair had begun to grow in every corner of Jaran society. The leaders of the Zarin Empire gathered in the Grand Hall, a place where decisions were made that could shape the destiny of the species. The hall was filled with a soft, golden glow, reflecting off the crystalline walls. High above, the ceiling displayed the stars, as if reminding them of what they had once reached for. "This is it," said High Chancellor Valen, his voice trembling despite his calm posture. "We have tried everything. Every solution we could imagine has failed. The planetary core is destabilizing. In a few cycles, this world will no longer support life. Unless..." Ford, he let the word hang in the air. "Unless what?" asked Minister Kalra, her antennae twitching nervously. "Unless we dare to do what? We have no allies. The nearby civilizations will not interfere, and most have their own problems. We cannot survive alone." Valen's gaze swept across the chamber. "We send a message. A final plea. Into the deep void of space. We ask for help from any species that can hear us. Even if it seems hopeless. Even if no one responds. We must try." The council was silent. Some shivered at the thought of reaching out to unknown civilizations. Others wondered whether it would be better to let their world fade quietly, rather than risk inviting predators or enemies. But desperation had a way of drowning fear. "Very well," said Minister Kalra after a long pause. "We prepare the message. Every word must carry truth. Every thought must show who we are. We must make sure that if someone hears us, they understand the gravity of our situation." For hours, the council worked. Scientists, historians, linguists, and diplomats contributed. The message was encoded in ways that would be universally understandable. It described the disaster, the beauty of their world, the value of their people, and the sheer desperation of their plea. It carried not just facts, but emotion, sadness, hope, and fear intertwined in its patterns. When the message was finally ready, it was broadcast on every frequency possible. It traveled across light years of dark, empty space, through nebulae and asteroid fields, toward distant stars and planets. For many Jaran, it was a moment of quiet hope. Perhaps someone would respond. Perhaps there was someone out there willing to help. But the majority expected nothing. Their galaxy had been harsh. Civilizations often ignored each other unless profit or power was involved. To imagine aid simply out of goodwill was almost naive. Still, the message was sent. On Earth, the first humans who detected it were puzzled. Dr. Lena Carter, a communications scientist at the Deep Space Monitoring Station, noticed the unusual signal. "Commander, you need to see this," she said, her voice tight with excitement. It's unlike anything we've ever seen." Commander Raj Patel looked over her shoulder. The signal was complex. Yes, but it was structured. It carried patterns that seemed too intelligent to be random. There was a rhythm to it, a hidden logic that suggested thought and emotion. "Could it be a natural phenomenon?" Raj asked. Lena shook her head. "No, stars and pulsars don't communicate like this. This is deliberate. Someone is reaching out. Someone wants us to understand them. Axit. This? The news quickly reached the highest levels of Earth's space agencies. Governments debated what to do. Some argued for caution. "It could be a trap," said one diplomat. "We don't know who or what it is. We must not respond without caution." Others, however, felt the pull of empathy. "They are sending a plea for help," said another voice. "Whatever they are desperate. If we have the chance to help, shouldn't we try?" After hours of discussion, a decision was made. Earth would reply. Humanity's message would be simple, clear, and honest. "We received your message. You are not alone. Help is on the way." It was brief, but it carried a weight no one could measure. The signal was sent back across the void. Millions of Jarin watched their communication network, waiting. Days passed. At first, they feared silence. Then, slowly, a new signal returned. It was calm, confident, and unlike anything they had anticipated. They replayed the message again and again, trying to understand. It did not carry threats, demands, or calculations of gain. It simply promised assistance. No conditions, no hidden motives, just help. Many Jarin did not know what to feel. Shock, disbelief, even suspicion arose. Could an unknown species, one they had never met, offer aid so openly? Their history had taught them caution. All encounters with other civilizations had ended in conflict, manipulation, or betrayal. But this was different. Within days, humanity's response became clear. Ships appeared in the Jarin skies. Unlike war vessels, these were not designed for destruction. Their surfaces glinted in the sunlight, sleek and clean, carrying equipment, supplies, and people ready to help. The Jarin stood on their balconies and rooftops, watching. Engineers, medics, and scientists moved with calm precision. Within hours, they began assessing the planet's failing systems. Power grids, water purification plants, environmental stabilizers, machines that had failed for cycles were repaired with tools that seemed almost magical to the Jarin. Even the children watched in awe. Never had their world seen such a display of quiet competence and determination. And yet, there was something more. The humans worked without hurry, without arrogance. They did not demand praise or recognition. They simply did what needed to be done. High Chancellor Valon could hardly believe it. "Minister Kalra, this is unprecedented. No species has ever come to aid us without expecting something in return. How do they do this?" Kalra shook her head. "I do not know, Chancellor. But we must observe carefully. Humanity is remarkable. Their technology is one thing, but their intent, pure intent, is another." Meanwhile, humans worked alongside the Jarin, carefully explaining their methods, teaching the aliens how to restore failing systems, and listening to their concerns. What could have been intimidating instead became a partnership. At night, the Jarin looked up at the stars with a mix of hope and confusion. Could it be possible that a species from so far away could care so much about them? Could it be possible that someone simply wanted to help? The longer the humans stayed, the more the Jarin realized something important. These visitors were not just skilled. They were willing to risk their own safety to save another species. That realization stirred feelings the Jarin had not felt for generations. Admiration, gratitude, something akin to wonder. Yet the planet's disaster was far from over. Even with the humans' help, the instability of the planetary core continued to worsen. Massive earthquakes shook cities, storms raged across the land, and the seas threatened to swallow entire coastlines. The Jarin scientists worked alongside the humans, analyzing every movement of the planet, and the humans did not hesitate to offer ideas that challenged Jarin assumptions. Where the Jarin had seen impossibility, the humans saw opportunity. One young Jarin engineer, Tivar, could hardly contain his excitement. "I do not understand how they think. They look at our problems and see solutions where we see only barriers. They never stop believing it can be done." Lena Carter, one of the human engineers, smiled at him. "Sometimes it's not about believing in the impossible. Sometimes it's about believing in people enough to try." Her words resonated with Tivar. Never had he imagined that beings from across the galaxy could inspire hope simply by refusing to give up. For the first time in generations, the Jarin people began to feel a spark of optimism. Maybe survival was possible. Maybe the end of their world was not inevitable. But even as hope grew, the Jarin knew the road ahead would be dangerous. The humans were extraordinary, but the planet's instability was immense. Each day brought new challenges, and each challenge required cooperation, courage, and ingenuity. High Chancellor Valen addressed his people, standing before the great council chamber. We have faced the end before. We have felt despair, and we have trembled at the thought of losing everything. But now, we are not alone, and perhaps, in our final hours, we will learn something remarkable. Perhaps we will see what it truly means to survive together, as a galaxy, not just as a planet. Minister Kalra added quietly, "We are witnessing something the galaxy has not seen before. Humans, they are showing us a new way to live, even in the shadow of disaster. And we must not waste this chance." The first part of the story ends with the humans continuing their work, calm and determined, while the Jarin watch in awe. They are still fearful of the disaster that looms, but they are no longer hopeless. Something greater has arrived, something that could change the fate of their species forever. Above all, one thought echoes in every Jarin mind. Humanity has arrived, not for power, not for conquest, but for one simple purpose, to help. And for that, the aliens are left speechless. The Zarin watched in awe as humanity's ships hovered above their cities. They had expected weapons, soldiers, or demands. They had expected indifference or arrogance. What they had not expected was this humans who came with steady hands, calm eyes, and the quiet determination to help. Lena Carter, the human engineer, stood on the platform of a repair vessel, observing the chaos below. Fires burned in the outskirts of the capital, and twisted metal lay scattered in the streets from recent quakes. Yet Lena's team moved with precise coordination, guiding the Jarin volunteers. "This section of the energy grid is unstable," Lena explained to a group of young Jarin engineers. "We will replace these conduits first. Then we stabilize the main hub. Work with us." One of the Jarin engineers, Tivar, blinked. "You can fix this so quickly? Our best teams could not restore even half of it in a cycle." Lena smiled. "We work differently. Sometimes it's not speed, it's method and focus. Watch carefully and learn." Within hours, the humans' influence became visible. Sections of the city that had gone dark for days were illuminated with light again. Water systems that had failed were restored, and communication lines hummed with energy. The Jarin stared, unable to hide their astonishment. High Chancellor Valen summoned his council. "This is more than we imagined," he said, pacing before the holographic map of the planet. "They repair, they rebuild, and yet, they do not demand anything in return. They do not even ask for recognition. What kind of species acts this way?" Minister Kalra shook her head. "I do not know, Chancellor, but I believe we are witnessing something the galaxy has never seen. Humans. They are not like other civilizations. They help because it is who they are, not because they expect gain." Meanwhile, humans moved carefully across the planet, coordinating with Jarin teams. They taught new methods of structural reinforcement, introduced environmental stabilization techniques, and repaired failing energy cores. They worked without pride, without complaint, and without fear of the unknown. A young Jarin child, Kira, ran alongside a human medic as they carried supplies through the streets. "Why do you help us?" she asked innocently. The medic, a woman named Rosa, knelt to meet her gaze. "Because no one should face danger alone," she said simply. "Because helping others is what we do." Kira's eyes widened. She had never heard such words before. In the Jarin history books, aid always came with strings, always came with expectations. Humans were teaching them something new, something the Jarin had forgotten long ago. Compassion could exist without conditions. But even as hope grew, the planet's core continued to destabilize. Tremors shook buildings, fissures split streets, and the oceans lapped angrily at the coastlines. Humanity was extraordinary, but they were facing a problem that defied easy solutions. Dr. Lena Carter and her team convened with the Jarin scientists in the Grand Hall. The room was filled with holographic projections of the planetary core, each layer displayed in precise detail. "The core is unstable," Lena said, pointing to a glowing section. "The energy flow is irregular. We can slow the damage, but we need to work fast, or entire continents could be affected. A senior Jaran scientist, Veril, frowned. Even with your technology, this is beyond control. The energy is too volatile. The planet may be lost. Lena shook her head. We will not give up. We never give up. Her words echoed through the chamber. And the Jaran realized something remarkable. Humans did not treat impossibility as a reason to quit. They treated it as a challenge. Over the next few cycles, humans and Jarin worked side by side. Humans trained Jarin engineers to think differently, to use creativity alongside science. They repaired damaged satellites to monitor seismic activity, reinforced critical structures with new materials, and even developed temporary shelters that could survive tremors. The Jaran citizens began to notice a change. Panic and despair were slowly replaced with cautious hope. Families returned to partially damaged homes, children played in areas that had been cordoned off as dangerous, and merchants reopened shops, trusting the humans' guidance. In the skies, human ships moved calmly and efficiently. Their lights flashed, not in warning, but in communication. And wherever humans went, Jaran followed. Eager to learn, eager to witness the skills and bravery that seemed natural to these strange visitors. One evening, High Chancellor Valen stood atop the tallest tower in the capital. The city below was still scarred, but the glow of restored lights filled the streets. He watched a human team navigate a collapsing bridge and stabilize it with precision. They are incredible, he whispered to Minister Kalra, who stood beside him. Do you see how they work? No fear, no hesitation. Just focus and determination. The galaxy has never seen anything like this. Kalra nodded. It is more than technology, Chancellor. It is their way of thinking, their courage, their willingness to act, even in the face of danger. Back on the ground, Lena Carter and her team faced one of the planet's greatest threats yet. A massive tectonic shift had caused a fissure to open near a major city. Lava like molten rock seeped from the cracks, and the tremors grew stronger with each moment. Everyone, stay clear of the edge, Lena shouted, coordinating evacuation and stabilization efforts. We need to install support anchors and cool the fissure. Move fast. Zaran engineers worked alongside the humans, their movements hesitant at first, but gradually confident. Lena guided them through each step, showing them how to combine Zaran materials with human technology. Slowly, the molten flow was redirected. The ground stabilized, and the city saved from immediate destruction. The Jaran could hardly believe what they had witnessed. Humans had not only arrived to help, they had actively prevented disaster, using methods that the Jaran themselves had never imagined. Word of the humans' actions spread across the planet. In every city, people gathered to watch. They saw humans lift heavy debris without machines, repair critical systems in hours, and calmly face dangers that would have terrified any Jaran citizen. Even the skeptics began to change their minds. Elder Kale, a longtime critic of interstellar communication, admitted in public, "We thought no one would answer our plea. We thought we were alone, but these humans, they have shown us that hope is not lost, that there is a species in the galaxy that acts purely for the good of others." Amid this progress, a new problem emerged. Deep scans of the planetary core revealed instability far greater than initially predicted. Entire continents were at risk, and some areas would be lost despite best efforts. The humans did not falter. Dr. Lena Carter called a meeting with High Chancellor Valon and the top Jarin scientists. "We can stabilize key regions," she said, "but the core requires more than temporary fixes. We need a long-term solution, and it will take courage." Valan's antennae drooped in worry. "Long-term solution? You mean, you want to risk more lives?" Lena's gaze was steady. "Yes, but not recklessly. We work together. We plan. And we act. We do not see danger as the end, only as a challenge to overcome," Kalra whispered to the Chancellor. "This is who they are, Valan. This is what makes them different. They do not see impossibility as a reason to stop. They see it as a reason to try harder. The humans spent cycles analyzing the planet's core. They devised a plan involving energy redistribution, structural reinforcement, and controlled energy venting. Every step was dangerous. Every action required trust between humans and Jareen. Tivar, the young Jareen engineer, watched humans preparing for the most dangerous part of the mission. "I do not understand," he said to Lena. "Why risk yourself for us? Why not wait for the problem to pass?" Lena smiled softly. "Because we cannot leave anyone to face disaster alone. You called for help, and we answer. That is what we do." Her words struck Tivar deeply. No Jareen had ever spoken so simply, so truthfully, about aid. And for the first time, he realized that humans were teaching them more than technology. They were teaching them a way to hope, a way to act, a way to live. Night fell across the planet, and yet the work continued. Human lights glimmered in every city, like stars brought to the ground. Jaran children watched from windows, dreaming of a world that could survive. High Chancellor Valen finally understood the magnitude of what was happening. "We sent a plea thinking no one would care. And now we see not only care, but action. Humanity has shown us a strength we never imagined." "They are remarkable," Minister Kalra nodded. "Remarkable. And perhaps a lesson we will never forget. The galaxy has creatures capable of selfless courage, and they are teaching us how to live in the face of disaster." As the night deepened, a tremor shook the city. Buildings swayed, and people panicked. But the humans moved calmly, guiding everyone to safety and stabilizing the area before disaster could strike. The Zareen began to whisper among themselves. "Humans, they are not just saviors. They are something more. They are a symbol of what we could be, if only we dared to care without fear." And so, under the alien stars, humanity continued their work. The Jareen watched, amazed, inspired, and humbled. A civilization that had thought itself doomed began to believe again. Not because the humans were stronger or faster, but because they acted with courage, intelligence, and compassion beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. For the Jareen, the impossible now seemed possible. And as the humans worked tirelessly through the night, one truth became clear. The plea they had sent was answered not with words, but with action, and with a level of hope and skill that left them speechless. The story of survival had only just begun, and the bond between humans and Jareen was being forged in the fires of crisis. One thing was certain. The galaxy had never witnessed humanity before, and now it was watching in awe. The planet's core trembled violently. Entire regions were at risk of collapse. The oceans surged unpredictably, and the land shook beneath the feet of every Jareen citizen. Despite all the efforts so far, the disaster had not slowed. The Jareen realized the truth. Survival would require more than repairs or temporary fixes. It would require courage, innovation, and determination beyond anything their civilization had seen. Human ships hovered over critical zones, lights flashing in coordination as rescue teams moved into position. Dr. Lena Carter, standing on the deck of the largest vessel, studied the holographic projections of the planetary core. Each movement of energy, each wave of instability, was carefully monitored. The humans had devised a plan, a bold operation to stabilize the core itself. But it was dangerous. One miscalculation could trigger massive quakes, or worse. High Chancellor Valen, observing from the capital, could hardly believe it. "They are willing to risk themselves. To enter the core zone directly?" he asked Minister Kalra, his voice tight with both fear and awe. Kalra nodded. "Yes, Chancellor. And they do not hesitate. They treat danger as a challenge, not a reason to retreat. I have never seen such courage." A human engineer named Marcus stepped forward. "We've calculated the safest path into the core zone. We have protective shields, energy dampeners, and stabilizers. But it will require teamwork, humans and Jareen together. Are you ready?" Valen hesitated. He had always been cautious, but he also knew that inaction meant certain doom. "Do what you must," he said finally. "But understand, if this fails, we may lose everything." Marcus nodded. "We understand, but we also know that we cannot turn away. Not now, not ever." Preparations began immediately. Humans and Zarin worked side by side to reinforce structures, erect stabilizing platforms, and secure evacuation zones. The streets of the cities were filled with a mix of hope and tension. Citizens watched from safe areas as humans moved into the most dangerous regions without hesitation. Tivar, the young Zarin engineer who had worked closely with the humans, felt both awe and fear. "I cannot believe they do this willingly," he whispered to Lena. "They walk into danger without hesitation." Lena smiled softly. "It is not fearlessness. It is choice. We choose to act when others are in danger. That is what being human means." As the operation began, tremors intensified. Lava-like energy flowed unpredictably through fissures in the ground. Massive buildings swayed above the unstable terrain. Yet the human teams pressed on, coordinating with Zarin volunteers, using a combination of technology, strategy, and courage to secure each critical point. Hours passed. Sweat dripped from foreheads, antennae twitched nervously, and the ground shook relentlessly. But step by step, the humans and Zarin began to stabilize key sectors. Critical energy conduits were reinforced, structural beams braced, and molten flows redirected. The citizens of the planet watched in silence. Never before had they seen such bravery and determination. Never had they imagined that an alien species, so distant, could care so deeply about their survival. High Chancellor Valen addressed his council. "I do not understand how they do it," he admitted. "We send messages into the void expecting nothing, and yet, they come, they work tirelessly, they face danger with calm eyes. We have much to learn from them." Minister Kalra nodded. "Indeed, Chancellor. They have shown us something more than technology. They have shown us courage, wisdom, and selflessness. Traits we thought were rare in the galaxy. Perhaps, humanity is exceptional in ways we cannot yet comprehend." In the core zone, Marcus and his human team faced the most dangerous challenge. A massive energy surge threatened to destabilize everything they had worked for. The shields around them flickered under the intense force. Zarin engineers assisted as best they could, but the humans were the ones who led the operation, making split-second decisions, rerouting energy, and stabilizing the core. "Hold steady," Marcus shouted. "Focus on the dampeners. Adjust the flow. Now." Each action was precise, each movement calculated. Tremors shook the ground, yet the humans did not falter. Their confidence and skill inspired the Zarin volunteers, who worked alongside them with growing courage. Minutes stretched into hours. The core's instability began to slow. Energy waves became less chaotic. The ground trembled less violently. Slowly, ever so slowly, the worst of the disaster was avoided. The moment of success came with a quiet, almost unbelievable stillness. The tremors ceased. The molten flows receded. Critical systems remained stable. The humans had done it. Against impossible odds, they had stabilized the core. The Zarin stood in awe. Some wept. Others fell to their knees. They had expected death, despair, and ruin. Instead, they saw life, hope, and survival. And the ones responsible were humans, strangers from a distant world, acting purely out of compassion and courage. High Chancellor Valen approached Marcus and Lena personally. I cannot express what we feel. You have saved our world, our civilization, and countless lives. How can we ever repay you?" Lena shook her head. "No repayment is needed. We acted because it was right. Because you called for help, and we answered. That is all." Valen was speechless. He had studied countless civilizations, met countless species. None had ever offered aid like this. None had risked themselves simply to save others. And now he understood something profound. Humans were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Across the planet, the citizens began to rebuild. The humans continued to work alongside them, teaching them how to maintain stability, prevent future disasters, and care for their world. Slowly, the fear that had dominated their lives began to fade. Tivar stood among a group of children, showing them how to reinforce structures safely. "Look," he said, pointing to the humans working in the distance. "They do not just fix things. They teach us. They inspire us. This is hope." Kira, the child who had once asked why humans helped, smiled brightly. "I want to be like them when I grow up," she said. "I want to help others too." Lena overheard and knelt beside her. "You can, Kira. Anyone can. All it takes is courage and the will to act. That is the human way, and you can carry it forward." As the days passed, the bond between humans and Jarin strengthened. Humans helped restore not only the planet's systems, but also the spirit of the Jarin people. They taught them resilience, innovation, and the power of selfless action. High Chancellor Valen addressed the people of his civilization. "We sent a message of despair, expecting nothing. And instead, the galaxy answered with hope, courage, and action. Humanity has shown us the meaning of strength, not the strength of weapons, nor the strength of conquest, but the strength to act for the good of others. They have saved us, and in doing so, they have shown us a path forward." Minister Kalra added, "We have learned from them. Their technology is advanced, yes, but it is their heart, their courage, and their willingness to act that truly saves lives. We must remember this. Humanity is a reminder of what we can aspire to be." For the Jarin, the impossible had become possible. Their civilization had faced extinction, yet they had survived. And not alone. The humans had not just repaired systems, they had repaired hope itself. In the final hours of the operation, as the humans prepared to depart, Valen approached Marcus and Lena one last time. "You leave now," he said. "And yet, your presence will remain in every heart of our people. The galaxy has never seen humans like you. You are extraordinary." Marcus smiled. "We do not seek praise, but we are honored to have helped. Remember, courage and compassion are not limited to humans. They exist in every heart, willing to act." The human ships lifted off, disappearing into the sky like comets. Yet their influence remained. Cities that had been on the brink of collapse now shone with light. Systems that had failed for cycles were stabilized. And perhaps most importantly, the Jarin people had learned something no technology could teach. That hope, courage, and selfless action could change the course of history. As the Jarin watched the stars, they realized something profound. The humans had arrived not for conquest, not for recognition, but for one simple purpose: to help. And in doing so, they had left an imprint on the galaxy that would never be forgotten. High Chancellor Valen looked at the night sky and whispered, "We sent a plea expecting nothing, and instead, we received humanity. A gift beyond words." And so, the Jarin civilization survived. Not because of luck, not because of weapons or power, but because humans had come courageous, selfless, and unstoppable. The galaxy would never forget this moment, and the Jarin would carry the lesson forever. That true strength lies not in domination, but in the will to act for the good of others. The final tremors of the planet ceased. The Jarin rejoiced. Humanity had proven that even across the stars, hope could reach those who most needed it. And the aliens, once desperate and afraid, were left speechless, forever changed by the kindness and courage of a distant species that refused to leave them to despair.